Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and you know that I like to interview people who have done things 10,000 times. Today, we have a guy, Dennis Yu. You know him for a variety of things. You've heard the name BlitzMetrics. You might know him as the How to Master Facebook spending just $1 a day, but you also just see him everywhere because he creates insane amounts of content. And so today, we're going to dive into some of the processes a guy uses who creates way more content than normal, and not fluff, but good stuff, both tweets, but also courses, and getting a lot of stuff out the door. Welcome to Redbeard Radio, Dennis.
Hey, Brian. Good to hang out, my friend.
Now, today, I want to talk about this tweet you put out. You said content creation is a Rubik's Cube. See no results for years, then solve it and fly straight to the top. Some people solve it earlier than others, and that's okay. And what stood out to me about this is you've taken these decades of working with all these brands, all these courses you've built, all these people you've trained to go be effective in the digital marketing workplace, and just boiled it down to that one thing. And it feels like it's just so core to what we have to do is getting knowledge out of us and building those processes so we can actually share with people. So I'd love to go get in your head a little bit. When Dennis wakes up on Monday morning or whenever it is you do your content, how do you think about what content you're going to produce that day or that week?
I think about the people I care about and the problems they have and how I can add value, which sounds contrite, but think about this. Yesterday, I was at Venice Beach with Alex Berman, and we were talking about our $1 a day, 1-minute video course and our Twitter ads course and digital plumbing and all kinds of stuff that we have. But then I thought, okay, how does that actually create value? Well, in the last few days, we launched courses using Twitter for ads, which most people have not used for 10 years or didn't even know that you could do ads on Twitter, and started making ads on Twitter. We started making ads on our phone and recording that, opening up the laptop saying, hey, check out this ad we just made, showing how we could do the whole thing in less than 60 seconds. The last 2 days, we spent $100 and drove $1,500 in sales for the course, which I thought was crazy because it literally took us just 2 or 3 minutes. Now, here's how I break it down. It wasn't that we need hours and hours or days to be able to create a course or promote a course. There's such a gap between when we want to do something versus when we actually take action that we need to shorten. I found most entrepreneurs, whether they're just starting or they're 6-figure entrepreneurs or 7-figure entrepreneurs, there's this gap that causes them to not start. So literally, the entrepreneurs that start, that actually make that video talking about the knowledge that they have on how to solve a particular problem that has a certain amount of value attached to it is really the key. So going straight to the top is, how do you figure out that one component? My friend, Dr. Kim Grimes, she's a relationship therapist, and she's built a number of courses and programs. She does consulting and speaking and coaching and all those kinds of things. And she wanted to put out a program. And originally it was going to be like 20 hours of stuff, and maybe we charge $499 or something like that. And then we said, whoa, wait a minute. How do we cut straight to the core of this? Well, what if we called it the 90-day relationship fix-up or something like that, right? Or for the Twitter one, we called it Twitter 10K, which is, how do you get to 10,000 followers and $10,000 on Twitter? Well, that has some clear value. Brian, would you pay $1,000 for a course that taught you how to make $10,000 a month on Twitter promoting someone else's content as an affiliate? So you didn't even have to have a course?
Yep.
What's that worth?
Yeah. Even though that's not my main business, I bought a whole bunch of Twitter courses because a single good idea that I can apply to my main business is worth more than $10,000.
Yeah.
I only have to learn one thing out of your Twitter 10K course to make it a huge value.
You'll get 5 or 6 things. So my friend Mark Wagner has been doing this Airbnb thing for a long time. He started when he was 18. Now he's almost 30, and he's got houses all over the place. And I said, Mark, that is crazy. How do you do this? So just for fun, I was following him around as he would go to these houses and rent them. So he doesn't own them. He just rents them and then sublets out the rooms on Airbnb. So he'll rent a house for $3,000, and then the rent will be $7,000. So that's another $3,000 a month times however many houses you have, and now you're making all this money. And he said, I want to do a course on how to do this because I've done it for 10 years and I've got so many properties and whatnot. So we came up with the idea, Airbnb 10K. How do you make an extra $10,000 a month on Airbnb with homes that you don't own, where you're just being a landlord and renting out the different rooms? And how do you deal with the different issues along the way? What do you charge? all the different components. And we filmed that course in 3 hours from start to finish, right?
Now, hold on there. 3 hours to create a whole course. When most people think of a course, they're thinking, okay, here's my 3-month plan, right? But you're doing a 3-hour plan.
Yeah.
Were you always like this, or was there something in your history that got you to the point where you think 3 hours is enough time to do a course?
You see, I used to think that courses were textbooks. You go back to like high school and there's your physics textbook. Oh my goodness, right?
Semester-long class.
Yeah. And then I realized, wait a minute, entrepreneurs don't have time. So if you can teach them how to do something in just an hour, that's actually worth more than 20 hours of watching all this YouTube stuff, right? Because Brian, name any topic, just like name a topic, anything.
Mountain climbing.
Mountain climbing. If I go to YouTube and I type in mountain climbing, how many videos are there on mountain climbing at different levels and climbing Mount Everest? And here's climbing gear and how you prepare and what's it cost. Like there's an infinite amount of content on YouTube, right? For free, isn't there?
Yeah. Clutter everywhere.
But then if you make it around a goal on how do you properly climb Mount Kilimanjaro as a busy entrepreneur with the right gear and not suffering from hypoxia, the oxygen, and not suffer from altitude, the sickness, right? 8 things you need to do to prepare to have a successful summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. And that course is $49. You'd probably pay for it because it's clearly oriented towards the achievement of a result, right? The achievement of making $10,000 a month on Airbnb, the achievement of using Twitter to promote your consulting or your programs, the achievement of how do you use Facebook for $1 a day to get more leads if you're a real estate agent, which is, of course, we have, right? So when you have a clear focus on exactly the goal that you have, you break it down into 5 components or 7 components, no more than 10. If you have more than 10, people are like, it sounds complicated. And at least 5, because otherwise it's too simple, right?
Okay.
You can break that into an outline. You can film that outline in an hour. It might take 3 hours because once you're done filming, then you have to promote it. You have to bring in other people to talk about the concepts, maybe customers or clients that have done the thing, and you talk about their results in a podcast-like way where it's pure value. You're not trying to promote because you talk about their experience, and then you JV with them. So anyone that knows about launching courses and programs is if you don't have a huge list, you partner with someone who does, and you just do a 50-50. Like Alex Berman and I have a 50-50 on our Twitter 10K course. And he even made a URL, twitteru.com, twitteryu.com. And so I see emails come in all the time where it's like, oh, you made another sale for $150, of which I get $75, right? An hour to film the course, an hour to promote the course, and an hour for the virtual assistants to do their thing. So when we're making these videos, do you think I'm the one editing them and transcribing them and building landing pages and running ads against them? And do you think I'm the one doing that?
Yeah, not so much.
I got VAs. I got teams of VAs. And we go to Fiverr, which is great. Full disclosure, Fiverr's a partner of ours. I love Fiverr. I was one of their first users, 7-8 years ago. I've personally submitted 405 gigs myself. And then we have a team account. So they do all that kind of stuff. And we have training on how to do it and checklists. So that way, how do you find the right Fiverr person, that kind of thing. And we have internal people. We have virtual assistants from the Philippines that we hire from onlinejobs.ph, and we pay them $3 an hour or $4 an hour, and they follow our checklist and they cut it up. I find that what would normally have taken me 20 hours of me having to do it and write the copy and build the landing pages and do all that kind of stuff that I don't want to do now takes me an hour. I've cut 20 hours to an hour because now the only part I have to do is create the content and everything else is handled. And if you knew that was the case, how much more content could you get out?
Well, so you've said 3 different things here. One is you're beginning with the achievement in mind. The second thing is that you're partnering, in this case, with Alex. So it's not just you having to think, it's you and somebody else. And then the third thing is you're outsourcing 95% of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And those 3 things. So that way now, if Dennis has a good idea, it's like, well, do I have 2 hours on Tuesday?
Heck yeah.
Because if I do, I can launch this thing.
Hey, let me give you another example. So we do a lot of stuff in local. So we have doctors and real estate agents, drive leads for them, that kind of thing. And one of the things that puzzled me is Google My Business. And how is it that some businesses who have fewer reviews than our clients are ranking better, and some clients, they get their Google My Business suspended because they violate certain rules that they didn't know about. And there's all this stuff. I have a pretty good idea, but my friend Ben Fisher is the top trainer that Google turns to on certifying and training people on Google My Business. So I was able to lure him in to be on my podcast. And so I interviewed him for an hour and a half. I mean, how much money would you have to pay to get someone like that to spend an hour and a half with you where they answer all your questions? What would that be worth?
They charge at least in the thousands, though. Usually, once someone charges 1,000 an hour, you can no longer hire them by the hour.
Right.
It's more like 10 or 20,000 a day.
Yeah. So if you could even get this guy's attention, because he's the one that Google turns to on this stuff, but I got his time for free because I said, hey, let's do a podcast together. So then that was my opportunity to just bang him with every question I have on how do you tune your Google My Business, as if I was a real estate agent or mortgage broker or a doctor, just like everything I needed to know. I was able to just suck the juice out of that one. And by the time our 90 minutes was up, I said, dang, Ben, this is so good. And you're step by step on how do you choose the right category, how do you collect reviews, what are things not to do. Like if you review gate, you can get banned, and 61% of real estate agents, which are in a distressed category, can be banned on Google My Business if you report them because they don't really know what they're doing. So you can kill the competition. Well, shoot, I didn't know that.
Ouch.
And he started listing all these different things that were so valuable. I said, do you have a course on this, by the way? And he said, no, I don't. I don't have time to do courses and videos and all that. I mean, I'm just here running my business, doing this stuff and consulting. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I will take the video and training we just made. We're going to turn it into a course and we're going to sell it for $29 or something like that. I don't know, something cheap, right? What do you say? We'll do all the work and we'll just 50-50 on it. And I mean, if you're Ben, you're like, well, shoot. I mean, and you know, we've got a pretty large audience. We could easily sell 1,000 of these, no problem. So let's say that's an extra $17,000 to you. Would you say yes to that? We do all the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a client in a similar-ish position where he has a live course and it takes all this time to deliver. Now, it's very high quality, but very small group size for the particular thing that he's teaching.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I took his course. I said, I love your course. Let's make an automated version. What's the roadblock there? Well, he has no time. And he doesn't have the skill set. He's an expert in his field, but not an expert at making courses. So I said, great, 50-50.
Yeah.
And I'm interviewing him to create the course.
Yeah.
And so I'm drawing out of him. I'm making it so easy for him to show up.
Yeah.
The details are not his problem.
That's right. He just has to show up and answer questions and you handle everything else. That's great.
And he's an expert. He loves talking about his topic area.
Yeah.
And I'm just handling all of the other stuff. So it's just easy for him. So let's get back to how you think about content. We've gotten some of the techniques that you talk about here. But when you think about, let's say, what you're doing in the next month, how do you decide of all the things? Because you could talk about so much. Folks, if you go to BlitzMetrics.com, you'll see there's 74 courses that cover basically everything. So Dennis, you could talk about anything.
Yeah.
But you decide to talk about this and that specifically. How do you figure out what to focus on?
I've got a stupid answer for you,
Uh-oh.
but it's the truth. So people that I engage with on social or people that I meet or people that I read their book and I find they're interesting, I just keep a list of these people and I schedule out the next 60 to 90 days of people I want to meet in person. And I love meeting people in person. So Jake Paul reached out to me. You know, the guy who does all the boxing and the influencer guy. He said, hey, I want to build a course. I'm like, heck yeah. Now, we could have done it through a Zoom interview, but I said, let me know what your schedule looks like and where you are. And I will fly out with a full video crew and we will film our course like that. And that's what we did. I'm seeing Matthew Janusek, who's a CEO of Escape Fitness, later this afternoon. I could have done it in a Zoom, but I'm going all the way to Newport Beach to go see him, right? And I have a friend in Nigeria. He's the top affiliate marketing in Nigeria. That's a long way. That's a 24-hour flight because you got to connect. There's no direct flight from the United States to Nigeria. And we're going to go have an event and film it. So we're making money by having the event, but we're also building a course on it, evergreen, just like with your live client. So I look at people that I want to hang out with and we make content together and it pays for our trip. And we also get to 50-50 on the stuff that we make. You know, Pitbull, the guy who's got all that music in the clubs.
Oh, yeah.
Miami. So he saw what we were doing with Jake Paul and he wanted to do the same thing. So I flew out to Miami.
Beautiful.
And he shut down a restaurant and he's got all the security. And it was just me, him, and a couple people hanging out. And I'm thinking, man, if I was just some fan of him and I just wanted to sing Hotel, Motel, Holiday Inn with him or whatever his different songs are, I don't think I could even get that because he's got these millions of fans. But because of what's happened with COVID, where people like him aren't traveling to big stadiums anymore, he's got more time to be available. And so I've been able to meet the most amazing people. I think I'm on like this pinch me if it's true kind of vacation, meet the most amazing people. And I bring a couple people to do video and audio And I think that makes you look better when you have a posse. I don't know, you have an entourage.
It's professionalism that you're really respecting their time.
Yeah.
You're doing 4 different things here. I want to break down the method you're using. So one thing is you are doing what is unusual, where there's how many pitches does Pitbull get per year to create a live course with him in person?
Yeah.
And you didn't even pitch him, right?
No, he came to me.
Yeah, you're in a market of roughly 1 or maybe 2 people a year that Pitbull sees like, oh, I could do this thing with this guy. So you're already not competing. So that's one thing. The other thing you're doing here is you're creating a relationship by being in person that is unusual.
Yeah.
I've not met most of my clients, whereas you're just flying to people.
Yeah.
But then yet the third thing or the fourth thing you're doing, because there's also the course is the third thing, but the fourth thing you're doing is you're creating the opportunity for synchronicity, like with Pitbull, because you're creating a relationship that is unusual and that is worth noting.
Yeah.
If I had, oh yeah, Dennis is going to show up, he's going to fly out to me and he's going to bring his film crew. Am I going to talk about that to the people I know? Of course I am.
Yeah.
Am I going to think about which of my clients could this really benefit?
Yeah.
And I can, oh, well, Dennis, what size of person do you really want to be talking with? Because I might know someone who might be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
So there's this synchronicity because you're in a market of one. You're the only person who Pitbull thought, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so you're not competing.
Yeah. It creates a flywheel. People don't get that. If you're listening, listen to what Brian and I just said, because if you are having a cold call, if you're not having a steady stream of warm leads and more clients that you can deal with, this is the one thing you've got to get. A few weeks ago, Tom Ferry, who's the number one guy in real estate, he's got 400,000 real estate agents that follow him. Ask any real estate person who Tom Ferry is, right? So he reached out to me saying, hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast. And I'm thinking, holy moly, it's Tom Ferry. Of course I'm going to say yes. And we were going to Zoom it. But then I said, no. I want to do this right. Let's meet in person and I'll bring our crew. Now, the reason why he reached out to me, because he could reach out to anybody in digital marketing or personal branding, is because I was on a couple other podcasts of people that he respected. And the reason they did it was because, so basically this podcast, speaking, personal branding, teacher knowledge, blog article, whatever it is, like putting your knowledge out there causes other people to want to reach out to you, causes you to get clients, and those clients will talk about you, which eventually then other people will reach out to you. So that's how it snowballed into Tom Ferry. So I flew out to Dallas to go see Tom Ferry, and that drove us hundreds of leads of real estate agents who said, I love the 90-minute masterclass you guys taught on all things digital marketing. Can you guys implement that for our company? And guess what? We happen to have an agency that serves just real estate agents. We have an agency that serves just chiropractors. We have an agency that just serves dentists. We have agencies that we 50-50 rev share with these other folks. So this is creating jobs for young adults or for people who are agency figureheads. They want to run an agency, but they're not able to drive the kind of business. But we have the connections because we're creating content with what we call the lighthouses in each of these areas. So Tom Ferry's a lighthouse in real estate. Glenn Vo is a lighthouse in dentists. He's got 32,000 dentists that follow him. You see what I'm doing?
Let's break down what you just said, because there's 3 different things. I want to keep on breaking down, like, here's the process that I think you're following.
Yeah.
Let me remember if I could see what those 3 things are. The final thing is you're demonstrating commitment, which is unusual. So all these dentists, they go and they see there's a live thing, like, oh, this dentist guy who I've never heard of before flew to go deliver a 90-minute course.
Yep.
That's unusual now, right?
Yeah.
Everything's online.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is you happen to actually be an expert at what you're teaching. That's important. But then the third thing is you have this catcher's mitt where after someone gets interested, you have the pipeline, you have the journey for them really well laid out. We're like, oh, and then the third and a half thing is, by the way, when you work with one of these agencies, we devote ourselves at BlitzMetrics to training young people in tech jobs. So you're actually working with people who are both growing their own skill sets, but they're following all these checklists, and you have all this content around how at BlitzMetrics you have a lot of procedures and you're very serious about training people. So it's this feel good, like, oh, I'm working with this company that's really helping people get trained up for the future of marketing.
Yeah.
But they all know that they're following the dentist process.
Yeah.
So they get this confidence, right? But even as like, man, this guy flew out here to give us a 90-minute talk. And he was also really right. So you start to, I like to describe it as a Venn diagram thing where if you only have 2 circles on a Venn diagram, there's going to be a lot of people who are in both circles. When you start adding more circles on there, it's fewer and fewer. So the number of people who happen to be an expert at this one thing you were talking about and make the flight out there and have an agency and also are staffing it with people you can feel good about hiring. Suddenly, again, there's only one person doing this. There's only one person I've heard of doing this. So Dennis, for people who are like, man, this is so cool, but I'm not Dennis. I've not run ultramarathons. I'm not Dennis. For someone who's like, this is a cool idea, but I don't know how to get there. from where I'm at, what do you have on offer for them to go start walking in that direction?
We have a course builder course if you want to put a course out there. That's at the higher level. But if you simply are an entrepreneur where you want to get more exposure and you want to be better known, we have our personal branding course. And the personal branding course is, how do I figure out who my top relationships are? How do I co-create content with them? Turn it into blog posts and videos and whatnot. Even if I don't know anything about cameras or filming or virtual assistants, we have all that stuff in a process format where you can reuse our templates to get it done. So think of it as a recipe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think of me as like Gordon Ramsay, and you want a hamburger, and here's the recipe step by step on how to cook the perfect hamburger. We're going to show you how to do that. A lot of people think that being an entrepreneur or building courses is like a Gary Vaynerchuk or Richard Branson kind of thing. This will work for just about anybody, because I believe that anyone who's a service provider or an entrepreneur, even if you're doing e-commerce, people buy because of your personality, because of who you are, because of your relationships, because it's fun, because you share knowledge. So think of it this way, right? I was in Vegas last week and I had a burger at one of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants. Do you think Gordon Ramsay was actually making my hamburger, serving me the burger? No. But the key is, how do you make it so that you're the Gordon Ramsay of your industry, where people see you as the premier player?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've got to associate yourself with these other people. So we teach you in this personal branding course, blitzmetrics.com/PBC for personal branding course, how to do that. And if you use the code REDBEARD, you can get 20% off.
What a deal. That's BlitzMetrics.
Yep.
BlitzMetrics.
.com/PBC for personal branding course.
Amazing. The personal branding thing is near and dear to my heart because I'm Redbeard Consulting is my company. Redbeard Radio is the podcast. And for folks who have heard me but never seen me, I do in fact have a red beard. And so it's interesting because it's on the one hand, it's a very personal branded company, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I differentiate between Redbeard Brian, which is the character I play, and then there's me, Brian Keith, who's a person, right? And they're 80% the same, but they're not entirely the same. Right? They're carefully curated. There's aspects of the Redbeard Brian brand. Like a part of Redbeard Brian is that he, that person over there, that character, is 10% more adventurous than you are and does the things you wish you could do if only you were a bit more adventurous. So you might go follow Redbeard Brian and you might hear stories about climbing mountains or about hiking on Mount Rainier in the billowing snow, shirtless in freezing temperatures, while Wim Hof breathing it up, skin on fire, or sailing trips, or teaching people how to shoot guns or shooting explosives at long distances. All these things, or beekeeping. Like there's a huge variety of things where it's the things you wish you could do, which you can almost imagine. And that's just one part of the Redbeard Brian brand. Or there's the Redbeard Brian about how he writes and how he can go help you get copy out of your soul, even better than you can yourself, but also has the technical expertise to go get campaigns built and Keep or in Plus this or whatever. So there's all these aspects which combine to be like, oh, here's this attractive person you want to listen to, right? And so your course takes people through a process. And how many people have you used this personal branding process with at this point, do you think?
Oh, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000.
And that's a powerful thing because you listen to someone like, how many people have I taken through a complete personal branding exercise? It's not in the 10,000s, by the way. It's in the dozens. So I have what works for me and has worked for some clients. But when you get into the 10,000 mark, you have a process that you've refined and done so many times that you can have some certainty that it's going to get you a result. And for anybody who doesn't have a clear understanding of who are they as their brand versus who are they as a human, if you don't understand the difference there, then your chances of being able to do crazy amounts of content creation are limited. Because I can look at any piece of content, I can say, well, is that something that I would say, or is that something that Redbeard Brian would say? And sometimes it does not belong. Sometimes something I'm interested in doesn't really belong as a Redbeard Brian topic. And that's okay. I can differentiate.
Amen.
I'm just excited to go take the course myself now and see what am I missing. And because again, it's one of these things, folks, where if you're a business, let's say you're making 6 figures, if you get a single good idea, deploy a single idea from the Twitter 10K course, a single idea from the personal branding course, one good idea is worth $10,000. So I've bought a bunch of Twitter courses where I'm thinking, okay, I probably know what's in this book, but if I can learn one thing from Ed Lattimore, Hotep Jesus, whoever, then that could be worth a lot of money. So Dennis, where can people follow you to get a dose of all the amazing content creation that is Dennis Yu.
Just Google me and follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. See, I knew that my time was up at Yahoo 20 something. I was one of the early people at Yahoo. When people on my team started saying, just Google it, I'm like, you
Oh.
realize what company you work at? That's like drinking a Pepsi when you're working at Coke, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that's not cool. And a lot of people on my team went to go work at Google and made hundreds of millions of dollars when the company IPO'd. And I still stayed at Yahoo and I made a lot less than that.
Yeah.
I still made some money, don't get me wrong, but I didn't make that kind of money.
It's an interesting life path because for all you know, if you'd gone to Google, you would still be there because it would be so lucrative instead of doing what you're doing and giving your gift to the world in all the ways that you are. So we can't
Who
tell.
knows?
We can't tell. Well, Dennis, thank you for being on Redbeard Radio. And real quick, you have a podcast as well. What is the name of your podcast?
It is the Coach You podcast, which Colin Wayne Ehrman, CEO of Redline Steel, came up with. He said, hey, you need to have a podcast. And I said, okay, what should I call it? He said, we should play on your name. We should call it Coach You.
Fantastic. That's coach and then you, Y U.
Yeah.
So go ahead, listen to that, folks. And Dennis, thank you for joining me on Redbeard Radio.
Thank you, Brian.